Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Inside Legends. Today is Friday, January 24th, 2026. It's 10 a.m. We'll talk about that, why that's important in a second, but today we're going to be talking about this Texas Democratic Senate primary debate that is happening today. As of recording this video, it's happening today at 2 p.m. Central Time. I said it's 10 a.m. It is 10 a.m. right now. For me, I'm Central Time. I'm recording this at 10 a.m. I'll make a video after the debate. It's in 4 hours about the results of it, but today we're going to talk about the potential results of this debate and just why it's so important. So what I want to talk about is how this debate, this singular Democratic primary debate in January 2026, 10 months before the midterms, could decide the Senate majority in 2026. Now, the reason it's going now we'll get to that in a little bit later, but this is what I want to talk about right now is that this is going to decide the Texas Democratic Senate primary election. Now, what I mean is that this is a very tightly contested Democratic primary. It's between James Talarico and Jasmine Crockett. James Talarico has always been kind of the underdog, but it's the best candidate pretty much objectively for the Senate race for the Democratic Party. Now, it's ever since this Senate race had began getting traction. Way back, the first poll we have is from August 2025. It was when Colin Allred was facing up against James Talarico, and he led. He led by 7 points in the first poll, then he led by 8 points, then he led by 12 points, then James Talarico led by 6 points in one poll, and then Colin Allred led by 4 points, and then he dropped out, and Jasmine Crockett entered the race. Jasmine Crockett entered the race and had a pretty solid lead. She led by 18 points in the first poll that was released against Jasmine Crockett and James Talarico. However, since then, it's slightly narrowed up, but it's still tightly contested. This one poll, the poll directly after Allred dropped out and Jasmine Crockett entered the race. Jasmine Crockett and Allred dropped out on December 8th. This poll is from December 9th. Jasmine Crockett led James Talarico by 9 points. 8 points. 9 points, yeah. And then the next poll had James Talarico up. It had James Talarico up by 9 points. And then this other poll that came out very recently has Jasmine Crockett up by 13 points. The point is that this race can go either direction. One of these candidates is probably going to win by a very substantial margin. And this debate that is happening in just a couple hours most likely is going to determine the outcome of the Senate Democratic primary. And now the reason why this is so important, who wins this Democratic primary, the reason it's so important is because this could decide the general election in Texas, and in turn could decide Senate majority. We'll talk about the Senate as a whole a little bit later, but right now, if James Talarico wins this Senate primary, and if Ken Paxton wins the Republican Senate primary, as he's supposed to do, and as the polls say, the latest poll has Ken Paxton up by 1 point, has Ken Paxton tied, has Ken Paxton up by 5 points, has Ken Paxton up by 5 points, etc. He is the favorite, by a very small margin, but he is the favorite in the Republican primary. All these aggregates have him up by low margins, but have him up. And the reason why this is so important is because he is a weak candidate. He is extremely weak. He is extremely scandal-plagued. Ken Paxton, he's primarying the incumbent senator, John Cornyn. John Cornyn is the incumbent Republican senator from the state of Texas. He is primarying him from the right. He's an extremely far-right candidate who is very scandal-plagued. He is known for his extremely conservative views. He's the Attorney General of Texas and he's scandal-plagued. He's been impeached. He's been tried for felonies. He's been indicted on felonies. He's been indicted for fraud. He's going through a messy divorce after cheating on his wife. He is a very scandal-plagued candidate, very far-right scandal-plagued candidate, which is why he's leading in the Republican primary, because at the end of the day, Republicans want a more far-right candidate most of the time, which is why he's leading. And if he wins this Republican primary, then let me show you the polls. These polls. Him versus Jasmine Crockett. One single poll actually has him and Jasmine Crockett tied, but the other polls has him leading by 8 points, leading by 2 points. He is probably going to convincingly beat Jasmine Crockett. John Cornyn, however, his challenger, would easily beat Jasmine Crockett. He would beat her in these polls by 5 points, by 8 points, by 6 points. He would convincingly win against Jasmine Crockett, and I have no doubt in my mind that he would. However, James Talarico, once again, this debate is going to determine who wins the Democratic primary. If Jasmine Crockett convincingly wins this debate, she's going to convincingly win the Democratic primary. Same exact thing goes for James Talarico. In these polls, let's start out with John Cornyn. If John Cornyn is the Republican nominee, he's going to win. He's going to win against Jasmine Crockett or James Talarico easily. He wouldn't win by the same margin that Texas was in 2024. He wouldn't win the Senate race like Ted Cruz did by 9 points. He wouldn't win statewide like Trump did by 14 points, but he would still win. All the polls have him winning convincingly. Not very convincingly, but by 3 points, by 6 points, by 3 points, by 6 points. He would win against James Talarico. However, Ken Paxton versus James Talarico is a completely different story. The latest polls we have, Ken Paxton and James Talarico tied. Ken Paxton, James Talarico tied. Ken Paxton only up by 3 points. And the only polls that have Ken Paxton up against James Talarico were from September 2025, from 4 months ago, before James Talarico really got his name out there, before he started spending money on advertising, before he got his name out there. And even then, he only was trailing Ken Paxton by 3 points, by 1 point. James Talarico, if he is the Democratic nominee, if he convincingly wins this primary debate in less than 4 hours, my time, he could go off to win the Senate race in Texas in 2026, the entire statewide Texas Senate race. And let me show you why this is just so incredibly substantial, why it's so important, why it's so relevant. I'm not going to worry about margins right now, but I'm going to label all these states that are going to go to their respective parties on the Senate race in 2026, basically undoubtedly. These states like Oregon or Virginia, Illinois, etc. For the Democratic Party, and Republicans have these also: Montana, Idaho, South Dakota, probably Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, all these states. You can make an argument for Nebraska not to be listed because of Dan Osborne, but at the end of the day, it's probably going to go to the Republicans. Same with Iowa, honestly. That leaves us with this Senate map. If Democrats win states like Michigan, Georgia, North Carolina, and Maine, like they're favored to do, I'm not saying that they are going to win these 100%, but they are favored to win these Senate races. And that brings Democrats to 49 seats. Even if Republicans win Ohio, which Ohio is one of the closer races of these Senate races with Sharon Brown, but at the end of the day, let's say that Republicans win Ohio because they are favored. Just like Democrats are favored in Michigan, Republicans are favored in Ohio. They might not go there to the ways that they're favored, but those candidates are favored in those states. Well, in Alaska, Mayor Portola is actually favored in the state. The polls we have, Mayor Portola up by 2, Mayor Portola up by 2, up by 1, up by 2. The only polls that have her down were from July 2025, from over 6 months ago, before she entered the Senate race. She only entered the Senate race a couple weeks ago. Not even a couple weeks, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? It was January 5th, I believe. Something like that. But the point is, Mayor Portola entered this Senate race, and she is favored to win in the state of Alaska. So if she does win, that brings Democrats to 50 seats and Republicans to 49. That brings everything down to Texas. If James Talarico wins this debate against Jasmine Crockett, if Ken Paxton wins the Republican primary, and therefore Ken Paxton faces up against James Talarico could win the Senate race in Texas. He could flip Texas blue for the first time in over 3 decades. And if he does, that is Senate majority for the Democratic Party in 2026. Senate majority, when just 2 years earlier, not even 2 years, a little bit over a year from now, the Republicans won the Senate majority. They won 53 of 47 seats. Democrats went from a Senate majority in 2022 to a Senate minority by 6 points. By 6 races, by 6 seats. And Democrats have a chance. Once again, they're not favored to win this. Democrats are not favored to win the Senate in 2026. By no means are they favored, but they have a chance to win these races. They have a chance to flip Texas blue for the first time in 3 decades. They have a chance to flip Alaska blue with Mayor Peltola. And if they do, that is Senate majority for the Democratic Party. And it could all come down to this debate that is happening in less than 4 hours to determine who is the Democratic Senate primary, who wins the Democratic Senate primary in the state of Texas in 2026. Okay, that's enough about my yapping. That's enough of this video. What are your thoughts on this Senate race? Do you think if James Talarico wins this debate convincingly that he will win the Democratic primary and go off to win the Senate elections statewide? If Jasmine Crockett wins this debate convincingly, do you think she's going to cruise to Democratic primary victory? What are your thoughts on this election? What are your thoughts on the midterms as a whole? I encourage you to like this video if you enjoyed the video, to subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video. I upload election news every single day. I'm probably going to upload another video about this same Texas Senate debate later today. Just stay tuned, turn on notifications. I upload daily, and yeah, have a great day.